As we walked in, there was a set of closets off to the left, and then like a vanity off to my right, and then a single bed. And I was standing between the bed and the vanity when I heard another gentleman from inside the room say, "Hey, I'm in here," and I saw two hands come out of the closet.
All right. And so at this point, how many officers were there, do you recall?
Counting myself, I believe it was 4 of us.
All right. And so some of those officers were taking Miss Johnson out because of the arrest, taking her out of the room?
Actually, I wasn't. I was the one that had control of Miss Johnson. I wasn't able to get out of the room. I was essentially blocked in because the only way out was off to my left now, and that's where the closet was. And so I was blocked from exiting. I actually had to go the opposite direction to kind of get both of us out of any potential danger that there was.
You didn't know who this individual was that just put their hands out all of a sudden and said, "Hey, I'm here"?
No.
All right. So tell us what happened next.
At that point, Mr. Johnson was found hiding in the closet and was removed at gunpoint because we had no idea if he was armed. We had no idea who he was. And then he was detained in handcuffs and was escorted towards the bathroom. I placed Miss Johnson in handcuffs, and she was escorted to the far end of the room and sat in a chair where I began to speak with her.
In speaking with Miss Johnson, were there? Did you gain access to any kind of electronics? Phones, laptops, anything like that?
I did. I asked for and was granted written consent to search her phone and the room and her laptop on a consent to search card. This consent card I read to her verbatim, and she signed that card.
Did you check her phone at that time?
I did not.
You took it in as evidence?
Yes, sir.
So tell us then about the dealings with Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson was, as I said, walked into the bathroom where Detective Hernandez spoke with him. I really had very little interaction with him. Saw him briefly a few times as we were conducting the investigation. I did most of my talking with Miss Johnson. And then after that initial interview, I actually began to work on most of the paperwork and writing up the arrest documents and things like that.
Did you ever have any conversations with the defendant?
Very briefly, I believe. At one point, I think when I was talking with Detective Hernandez, at one point there was Mr. Johnson said he had money in his shorts. And I think he was wearing like 2 pairs of shorts, so we had to go in and get the money from, with his consent, to remove the money.
Did you remove that, or was it Officer Hernandez?
If I remember correctly, sir, give me just one moment. I believe that was me. That was me, sir. And it was later found out to be $1,200.
$1,200 in cash?
Yes, sir.
That was found on the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson?
Correct.
Do you see that defendant here today?
Yes, sir.
Can you point him out, please?
He's sitting right there.
So 2 from my left at council table?
Yes, sir.
And so that was the man that Mr. Hernandez, or Officer Hernandez, had taken into the bathroom and dealt with him at that point. You were still dealing with Miss Johnson.
That is correct, sir.
Did you later have an opportunity to... Well, let me ask you this. Was there anything else that was found on the defendant that you were aware of?
I believe there was also a cell phone that... I didn't find it personally. From what I was told, it was found in his hand. I believe at the time he was taken into custody. But
Officer Hernandez would have that information.
Yes, sir.
All right. Were you aware then that... Did your investigation include, in addition to the prostitution situation, any drug activity?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
I talked with Detective Hernandez at one point after he had been speaking with Mr. Johnson, and learned that he had looked through, with Mr. Johnson's consent, his cellular phone. During those, or in doing that, there were text messages that were consistent with him attempting to sell oxys, or oxycodone.
Is oxycodone a controlled substance?
Yes, sir, it is.
It's an illegal substance without a prescription?
Correct.
Okay. Is it legal, if, let's say you actually have a prescription yourself for those pills, is it legal for you to then sell those to other people?
No.
Okay. And so let's tell us a little bit more then about the Oxy and then the text messages.
The Detective Hernandez told me that there were text messages on his cell phone that were consistent with him reaching out to individuals saying that he had 50 oxys, 5 milligram oxys to sell, and was going to sell them for X amount of dollars. Which, when he told me that, I noticed in the room there was a bottle labeled or prescribed to Mr. Johnson of 5 milligram oxys, and there were 50 of them within the bottle.
So that physical description of what you found matched exactly with what the text messages said about selling 50 of the 5 milligrams.
Yes, sir.
All right. And talk about, if you can, Detective, the individual, or could you determine who he was talking with in regards to trying to sell these drugs?
A gentleman by the name of Nick was the one that was most commonly, the most common messages that were sent. May I refer back to
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And while you're doing that, Detective, looking to find some of that, you did a whole scan and extraction of the cell phones, correct, to help you determine everything that was going back and forth between these people and who owned which phones?
Yes, sir. Okay. On Mr. Johnson's phone, so the text messages in reference just to the oxycodone portion of it dated back to the 5th of May mostly to a gentleman by the name of Nick. Several messages to Nick back and forth. At one point, Mr. Johnson sent this Nick a text saying that his sister needs bill money, and that she would have to sell them all for $250. All 50 of them for $250. And the other gentleman was, kind of haggling about the price, and that was. The last messages were up to the 6th of May until the evening of May 15th, where a message was sent from Mr. Johnson's phone to Nick at about 7:44 p.m. Asking if he wants to buy some oxys, 5 mg, 50 of them for $200, which is actually a fairly good deal, since they're typically $1 a milligram. 50 of them would usually be $250, but to get 50 off, you could potentially make profit if you were going to sell them yourself. And so he sent that message to this Nick on the evening of May 15th. And then that was the last message regarding the oxycodone, or the oxys.
Detective, I want to go back a little bit into text messages that were sent between Miss Johnson and the defendant in regards to the prostitution aspect of it. Does she go by the nickname of, or on the phone, Queen Moneymaker?
Yes, sir.
And were there verified messages sent between she and the defendant in regards to the meetup with you? I think one of them said, I hit a lick for $100.
Yes, sir. There was... I didn't look at the message specifically in regards to me. There were literally thousands of messages. And when I wrote my report from that analysis, I took small snippets. I would still be typing if I was trying to get them all. A sample of these are from Queen Moneymaker.
So he made
listed there as the same
a list,
cell phone which I called,
and he put text messages together,
May 15th and May 16th,
which made sense to him trying to make me be my wife's pimp, and it's illegal.
Things such as I hit a lick for $100. A lick is a more common slang term for a robbery victim, but in this sense, it would appear that they're kind of using it for their own as like a John or a client in this sense.
Did you receive information then in talking with Miss Johnson then and looking through her cell phone and seeing the messages she sent to the defendant? Did you then question her about the defendant's knowledge of what she was doing in his role?
I did.
And what did she say?
She was very vague on a lot of those comments, but she would eventually kind of open up that he is there as a protection. They had a prearranged code signal or code word, such as when a client would get too rough with her, she would say no 3 times, and that was Mr. Johnson's.
This is far from the truth.
He was hiding, be in a closet.
Why would any man wait to hear no 3 times
that there was anything physical
to help his wife? This is just slander from this officer right here. He never ever talked to me. Roger Gerald Smith. You hear he stuttered on his own name. She said, state your whole exact name. And he only gave it Roger Smith. His real name is Roger Gerald Smith, for the record.
He's never had to hurt anyone.
I never had to hurt no one. Listen to this man. Listen to this slander. They got somebody else's background on me. And I ain't do nothing wrong.
He drives her to local stores to buy debit cards, the prepaid debit cards, because they don't want to keep their cash on hand, and then they'll retain all their money.
If that's the case, then how did he use the $1,200 that he found in my pockets? How? If we put it on our debit cards, they never seized our debit cards. They only took my money. They robbed me of my money, which came from my lawsuit.
For that, how did you describe that?
Why do he always got to go back into his notes? He should have been ready for this.
She said that the money was shared.
The money was shared how?
She doesn't, quote unquote, pay her husband, but the money that they earned is shared.
She don't pay me.
According to her.
These people slander me so hard, I don't even know what to do. There was no fight in my side of the court. Because Gail Ryder felt like I was a pimp anyway.
Was there for protection, intimidation, and also get some of the proceeds.
How, when I was extremely sick at the time, there was no way I could have helped my wife.
She had no way. She had no cash on hand. The only cash that we found was in Mr. Johnson's possession at the time.
Is it of significance that you found $1,200 on the defendant for your
Actually, it was $1,290 according to the police report.
She told me that the night before she had met with two other individuals.
They talk about the $1,200, but they forget I had $1,290. So my question is, where is the $1,290? Where is the 90?
Per person, that'd be about $800. She said she'd been with at least 2 people. So
technically, Officer Roger Smith offered Mrs. Johnson a 50 extra for not being there on time. So this is a lie what he explaining.
And that was all in the possession of this defendant, not Miss Johnson.
That is correct.
This is completely lies because I didn't go down there for that.
Detective Smith, did you have
look, they so confused.
Any opportunity to, it's a collaboration, I guess, between you and the other.
Right, a collaboration to commit a crime on a poor black man.
With each other to help,
they shared information, but Roger Gerald Smith was the leading detective in this case.
Yes.
He used information from my wife's prostitution citation to charge me. So, in other words, he wrote.
Information you had obtained from Miss Johnson. Did you share that with Officer Hernandez so he could then question the defendant?
Yes. No, that's a lie. They split us up. Remember, he talked to one, and Roger Hernandez talked to me.
Anything out of the ordinary? Was he acting weird or different? Not.
This is how they trying to discredit my illness.
Not that I remember.
Of course. They gonna say that they cops. They don't wanna tell the truth about how they arrested a sick and poor ill man. No, they wanna make me out to